What's going on, guys? SasDood here. You can just call me Sas. I hope everyone's having a awesome month of March. You know, it just turned March a little bit ago. But today I wanted to talk about the art style of pixel art, why I'm doing a little bit of pixel art on the side of me doing my regular stuff, and some of the things that I want to accomplish with pixel art because I've recently just picked up pixel art and I needed a video out for this weekend. And I did a live stream uh, on Friday talking about the struggles of pixel art, drawing pixel art stuff off of Pinterest. I thought it'd be interesting to go through my process for doing pixel art. So I don't really have a script ready for this video. I'm just kind of winging it. And hopefully you can bear with me as I talk through some of my bullet points. So first of all, why'd I start with pixel art? Is I wanted to have some sort of break between my realistic drawing and drawing using 3D models, and I'm learning where every shadow is and I'm placing everything carefully. Pixel art, yes, you have to place stuff carefully, but it's much more restricting, but at the same time it's much more free form, right? You just take your graph paper, as you can see while I'm using the footage of the live stream in the background, and you just count out the squares and kind of plot out where the colors are, where the shades are going to be. You plot out where you're going to dither and where you're going to do your anti-aliasing and things like that. And it's a much more relaxing way of doing it. At least traditionally, I imagine doing pixel art digitally is much easier and faster, which might be a little bit less relaxing because all you have to do is just use the wand tool and select which squares you want and which squares you want to exclude, and paint that color or that shade of gray or that shade of black and just fill in that entire area. And it's certainly much easier to do it digitally than traditionally. Traditionally, you have to hand by hand do everything, but digitally you have tools and things to speed up the process. And it's much easier to animate those things if you're doing pixel animation digitally, because traditionally you have to redraw everything over and over and over and over again. But yeah, it was just something to relax, something to do. And I thought it'd be a great stream, like a one-off stream to just try out and mess around with. Maybe I can learn something. Secondly, I want to talk about is with pixel art very much looks similar. It doesn't really matter which artist does that pixel art. The inherent freedom of the art form is kind of its restriction, right? There's only so many ways you can depict a pixelated character, or it seems like a pixelated object doing a pixel art style, right? You know, a character is not very well defined by the art style or by the artist unless it's mainly like a well defined property, or it's a well defined character, right? What separates a pixel art character of like a famous Batman versus a famous Spider-Man, or maybe like, you know, Undertale? What separates Undertale's pixel art from other people's pixel art? You mostly just look at it and assume it's mostly the same artist doing the same things and doing the same types of shading and things like that over and over and over again. And that's why it's so easy to do, but at the same time I feel like it's very limiting, because in a regular drawing you can depict a lot of things in a lot of different ways, and it's much easier to have your art style be recognizable, especially just front on at a first glance, rather than with pixel art, because pixel art you kind of have to know the property. At least that's how I feel. Maybe you guys feel differently. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but just from my limited knowledge and my test trial runs, that's what I think. And moving on to my third topic for that is, in order to try to differentiate myself and standing out from pixel art in pixel art, I don't really like the solid blacks and stuff like that, right? You guys know I've harped on not liking a lot of solid blacks and how typical manga artists and mangakas do their shading when it comes to solid black fills, because it's just no texture, no nuance. It's just a big black blob. And while it's very, very, very good for harsh shadows and things like that, I just find no like technique in it, and no like, more importantly, there's like no fun for me in it, because you're just placing down a big blob of ink and trying to, and obviously there is a technique to where, you know, you can do harsh shadows against, you know, light edges, or you know, you can kind of like dither it out using hatching and cross hatching, but for me it's not very fun, right? And so what I wanted to achieve was some sort of pixel art style that's like recognizable to me. So in the stream, I try to do stuff like hatching, cross hatching, using different shades of hatching and cross hatching, using different shades of pencils, of mechanical pencils of different grades from 4B, 2B, HB, and 2H. Although I don't think I used 2H in the live stream there. But mainly I kind of want to try to stand out. So when someone sees like a cross hatched or hatched pixel art, and it's like, oh, that's, you know, that's SasDood, that's Sasman's art, you know, pixel art, right? You can instantly recognize it, and you can see who like the progenitors. I don't even know if anyone does that. I've researched a little bit into pixel art, and I'll have to do more research later, but I don't know anyone who does like that type of hatching and cross hatching with either pen and ink or traditional pencils or mechanicals on pixel art stuff. So I feel like that's a niche I can get into, and that's a niche that I can kind of exploit to be like, hey, that's me, that's mine. Not, you know, exploit as in make that my own art style, not exploit as in, you know, the negative format there, or negative meaning there. And I think that's pretty much it. Do I have a fourth bullet point? I don't think I do. I think it's nice. Well, I guess my fourth bullet point would be, it's nice to take a break from regularly drawing, because a lot of like regular drawing is like, oh, you have to be this loose, oh, you have to be gestural, and you have to not rely on these 3D models, and you have to draw from imagination, and all these so-called social rules when it comes to drawing and posting your online and stuff like that, which I don't care about. I rely on 3D models, and I draw and trace over them. I pose them myself. You know, I mess with the shading myself. I mess with the lighting myself. I mess with I pose the environments myself. I pose them myself. Everything I do myself besides the models, right? And it's like, oh, you're not supposed to use reference. You're supposed to draw from imagination and things like that, which is a whole separate topic in and of itself. So it's nice to just go on Pinterest and see what other people have done, either digitally or traditionally, and to just copy them and see, you know, how their shading works, how they leave white spaces in between, how they adjust their shading from pure black to, you know, slightly darker black to gray and then white. And it's just very interesting coming from my background as trying to be like a realistic type of artist, but failing to be like super gestural and super like imaginative, to going to pixel art where it has rigid sets of rules, but at the same time you can break those rules once you very much understand it. And you have a lot more leeway, I believe, with pixel art when it comes to depicting a lot of things that you normally can't depict traditionally drawing, right? So I think I will continue with messing around with pixel art. Maybe I'll do some pixel art renditions of my own, like Conan Exile characters or other pop culture like pixel art stuff. Like, you know, I like the Disgaea sprites. They take the artwork of Takeda Harada and they pixelize it down to fit on the PlayStation 2 or the PS3, right? Up until I think Disgaea 4 with the HD pack, they were using pixel sprites and things like that. So I kind of want to strike my own path with pixel art, and it's just another, you know, branching out of things that I can do with art. When I'm feeling tired of realistically drawing, when I'm feeling tired of trying to loosen myself up for drawing and trying to learn stuff, I can kind of just do my own thing with pixel art and see how I can push the envelope in my own way, in my own shape, in my own form, right? So just some things to chew on, some things to talk about here. I had a lot of fun this stream. For everyone who showed up and talked, and I have the VODs available if you guys want to take a look at the VODs, but I think that it'll be like a one-off stream for sure, and then maybe I'll bring it back later. I don't know when's the next time I'm gonna stream, but that all this footage that in the background is from that stream. So normally I would have put my face cam up and talked to you guys to the camera while I'm drawing, but my face cam's already up there. So anyways, maybe that gave you guys something to think about. It certainly gave me a lot of things to think about in art and the future of my art. I'm not strictly sticking to one particular art style or one particular aspect of art, and instead branching out to a lot of other stuff, because I've been experimenting a lot, I've been brainstorming a lot, and I've been really trying to push the envelope with myself when it comes to art and what I can do to branch out, right? So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you wish to support me and my videos, all my payment and tipping links are in my profile. More videos, more artwork, more live streams will come regardless. Goodbye for now, guys.